One of the single most common upgrades people make on their offset guitars is to replace the stock bridge, especially if it's on a vintage model Jaguar or Jazzmaster. For decades, there weren't a whole ton of aftermarket options available if you wanted to replace the bridge, but now we have so many more available to us, including this new offering that we're going to be highlighting today from Offset Guitars UK, which is appropriately named the Offset Bridge. The team at Offset Guitars UK reached out to me via recommendation from a buddy of mine, Mr. Steve Cassidy. They wanted to know if I would review this guitar because offsets are kind of my thing, and I thought it would be a fun project to go over since I got a few other bridges we can compare this with. So we're going to be looking at the stock Fender bridges, both the Mustang version and the vintage threaded one, as well as comparing it with the bridge that a lot of people say that this is very inspired by, the Staytrem. Let's give it a go. I want to start by pointing out the things I immediately liked about the design. The first being brass saddles. There's a lot of debate online about how much the material that the saddle is made of is going to impact the tone, especially when plugged in. But having played everything from string savers, which completely sucked the life out of an offset I used to have, those went pretty quick, all the way to the mastery bridge, which absolutely impacted the tone and the feel of the guitar itself a little bit as well, I say it does make a little bit of difference. Your mileage may vary on that, but for me, I do consider these minor alterations to your sound. Secondly, the bridge has a really modular design to it, meaning you can use it on both a right-handed or a left-handed instrument, the same exact bridge. You don't have to buy a specific version for each one. And you can choose which side you want the intonation saddles on. Do you want them facing the neck, or would you prefer them facing the vibrato? They're able to achieve this because the V-shaped grooves in each saddle are wide enough and deep enough to accommodate both orientations. This might not seem like a big deal to you since you're either right-handed or left-handed, but I know a lot of people that are lefties, including the bassist in my band, and whenever he's looking for parts, it is a massive nightmare trying to find ones that are going to fit his bass. The bridge itself feels substantial. It doesn't feel like a cheap knockoff, which makes sense as it's made of stainless steel. The slots on both sides of the bridge itself ensure that you're not going to have any issues with the strings making contact with the bridge regardless of the break angle, which is important because if your offset doesn't have enough break angle, that can lead to its own set of problems. Currently, they offer two different bridges, one that's going to fit a modern 9.5-inch radius and another one that's going to fit a vintage 7.25-inch radius. Both bridges share a 52.5mm string spacing. Now let's compare it with three other offset bridges I have here. I gotta start with the vintage style bridge with the threaded saddles. People hate these in the offset community, and honestly, I don't see why. Sure, they definitely deserve a little bit of TLC, but they're fully functional, especially if you know how to use some blue Loctite to make sure that things aren't going to be moving around. However, if we compare it to something that has a little bit more engineering and thought involved into it, like this offset bridge, it becomes obvious where some deficiencies may lie. There's no way to sugarcoat this, so I'll just come out and say it. The vintage bridge feels by far the cheapest out of all the bridges we're going to be looking at today. This is a standard Mustang bridge from a Fender Japan Special Run Jaguar. When comparing the two of them, it's obvious the offset bridge has some noticeable differences, but perhaps the most important is the string spacing. The Fender version of the bridge has the wider string spacing, while the offset bridge has a narrower 52.5. Why does that matter? Because the string spacing at the bridge can greatly impact the playability of your instrument. With the wider spacing, both E strings will sit closer to the edge of the fretboard, and the further up the neck you go, the potential for the strings to slip off the board increases, especially if you're using vibrato on your fretting hand, bending, or doing pull-offs. This is one of the most practical reasons to upgrade your bridge, because with the 52.5mm spacing, the outer E strings are given more real estate on the board, letting you play with a lot more confidence. Finally, let's compare it with the tried and true Staytrem bridge. Most obviously, the saddles are a different material, but it's more than that. The screws are in a straight line on the offset bridge, where the Staytrem, they're not. This small difference minimizes the chances of the strings making contact with them. One thing I've always liked about the Staytrem, and Fender liked this as well because they ended up implementing it onto their second version Johnny Marr bridge, is it has the bushings to help ensure that the height remains consistent, while the offset bridge uses a more traditional approach, more in line with, let's say, a mastery bridge. I've been testing this bridge on multiple guitars for about a month now since I didn't want to just rush out a review. I started off using it on my Jaguar, I used it on the parts Mustang that I built, and now I'm using it on the Jazzmaster. Before I go any further, I just gotta say, this looks like it was meant to be on this guitar. The gold on gold, ooh, just killer. And honestly, I don't do a lot of reviews when it comes to hardware for offset guitars because it's either gonna work or it's not gonna work. Used this for a month, as I said, had no problems. It's a simple installation, assuming that you have thimbles that are US spec. It'll drop right into it. You do have the option of having it non-locking with the plastic inserts that are included. It comes with all the tools that you're going to need to be able to adjust both the intonation screws and the height of the actual bridge itself. It's a winner. So if you want a bridge that's rock solid with a more traditional look, check out the Offset Bridge from Offset Guitars UK. There'll be a link in the description to both their Reverb and their eBay shop. They're currently working on a website, but they're a small micro business. Everything is made and assembled in the United Kingdom, so they're the kind of people that I like supporting. Also, I want to thank them for supporting me and sending this over to review. We will be seeing this more in action on other guitars, and I think I have the perfect home for it as is right now. It's just going to need a few minor tweaks to it. Thank you for watching today's video. If you have any questions, comments, or concerns, you can leave them in the comment section of this video, and I will see you on the next video. Take it easy, everybody.